The drama surrounding Sophie Cunningham and her contract demands hit Fever Nation like a thunderclap. Just when fans thought the Indiana Fever had finally found the chemistry and leadership to build a dynasty, Sophie turned the conversation in a completely new direction. On her podcast, with that signature confidence and calm fire in her voice, she dropped a line that froze everyone listening. "I'm not coming back for free." It wasn't yelled or dramatized, but the weight of those words rippled through the entire WNBA landscape. Fever fans replayed the clip again and again, some nodding in agreement, others holding their breath, realizing this might be the start of something much bigger than a contract negotiation. Sophie Cunningham has never been the type to tiptoe around the truth. All season long, she played with an energy that could light up an arena. Her defense was aggressive, her leadership commanding, and her chemistry with Caitlin Clark impossible to ignore. When Clark was getting hammered by defenders and no one else dared to step in, it was Sophie who stood up, unafraid, unfiltered, and ready to send a message that her team would not be bullied. She wasn't just a player, she was a heartbeat, and the Fever's resurgence in the second half of the season had her fingerprints all over it. Her 14-game stretch of double-digit scoring and relentless rebounding was the spark that kept Indiana alive during their playoff chase. But for all her fire and loyalty, Sophie's paycheck didn't come close to matching her contribution. Reports estimate she made around $100,000 last season, a respectable salary by WNBA standards, but a fraction of her true value to the franchise. When she mentioned wanting a multi-year deal so she could buy a house and feel settled, fans immediately understood what she meant. This wasn't just about luxury, it was about stability, recognition, and fairness. She's proven her worth, and now she wants to be compensated like it. Still, the timing of her remarks couldn't have been more provocative. The Fever were riding a wave of momentum, both on the court and online. Analysts valued the team at roughly $55 million, largely thanks to record-breaking social media engagement and fan attention, much of it tied to the personalities driving the team's culture. And Sophie Cunningham was at the center of that spotlight. According to search data, she ranked as the third most Googled WNBA player of the entire season, trailing only the biggest superstars in the league. Every fiery moment, every viral clip, every emotional outburst, it all fed into the Fever's rise as a brand. So when Sophie took the mic and spoke her truth, she wasn't just negotiating with a front office. She was speaking to the fans, the media, and the entire league. Her tone wasn't bitter, it was assertive. The subtext was clear: if Indiana wanted to keep its emotional leader and fan favorite, they needed to show her the respect she'd earned. Inside the organization, however, her comments reportedly raised eyebrows. Sources close to the team suggested that both general manager Amber Cox and head coach Stephanie White were taken aback by how direct she was. Some insiders saw it as a power move, a strategic play to test her leverage before free agency. Others whispered that it could be a warning shot, a sign that Sophie was ready to explore other cities willing to pay what she's worth. And those cities exist: New York, Minneapolis, Dallas, even Las Vegas. Every single one of those teams could use a player with Sophie's grit and personality. Her ability to connect with fans, rally teammates, and elevate locker room energy is rare. In a league where chemistry can make or break a season, her presence is a commodity that can't be easily replaced. Yet, for all her influence, there's still hesitation from Indiana's management. Some executives reportedly view her as a secondary star, a piece of the puzzle rather than the centerpiece. But Fever fans know the truth. Without Sophie's 14-game surge and vocal leadership, there might not have been a playoff chase at all. The locker room reportedly felt the shockwaves of her statement immediately. Younger players looked up to her for her energy and direction, and hearing that she might not return created uncertainty. For some, her comments were empowering, a reminder that players deserve to know their value and demand fairness. For others, it was unsettling, proof that even leaders could be driven to question their future. And for fans, it was heartbreaking to imagine the Fever's emotional core possibly walking away just as things were starting to click. Online, the fanbase split down the middle. Half of Fever Nation stood behind Sophie completely, calling her one of the hardest-working players on the roster and urging management to pay the woman. They cited her clutch performances, her defensive hustle, and her loyalty to teammates like Caitlin Clark. The other half worried that her boldness might sour relations with the front office, jeopardizing the fragile chemistry the team had built. "We love Sophie," one fan wrote on X, But if she's using this to leave for another team, it's going to hurt. That's the emotional tension Cunningham created with just a few honest words, a mix of admiration, fear, and respect. It's not lost on anyone that Sophie's comments came at a crucial moment in league history. With the WNBA's new media rights deal set to inject fresh money into the system, salaries are expected to climb significantly. Analysts predict that the very same contract Sophie had this season, around $100,000, could triple under the new salary cap structure. A multi-year deal worth roughly $300,000 annually would not only reflect her growing market value, but also give her the stability she's earned after years of grinding. For the Fever, offering that deal isn't just smart, it's strategic. She's not just another player, she's part of the reason Indiana's fan base has exploded. But money isn't the only issue here. Sophie's battle is symbolic of a larger conversation happening across the WNBA about respect, equality, and ownership of one's narrative. Too many players have seen their contributions overlooked or undervalued, especially when their marketability doesn't align perfectly with the league's marketing agenda. Sophie, through her podcast and growing media presence, has built her own platform. She doesn't need a PR team to amplify her message. She controls it herself. That independence makes her powerful, but it also makes her a wild card in a league still learning how to navigate outspoken stars. Behind the scenes, her loyalty to Caitlin Clark and her fiery protection of teammates haven't gone unnoticed. She became the enforcer, the spark plug, the player who wasn't afraid to step into chaos and restore order. Fans remember how she stood up for Clark when others stayed silent, and that single act elevated her from a role player to a cult hero. Losing her now wouldn't just hurt Indiana's rotation, it would fracture the culture that made the Fever exciting again. Still, negotiations are business, and business is never sentimental. Reports suggest Indiana's front office is weighing its options carefully. With Clark's future contracts expected to consume a massive portion of the cap, and with multiple rising stars vying for new deals, allocating an additional $300,000 per year for Cunningham could force some tough choices. But the counter-argument is equally clear. Letting her walk might cost the team far more in the long run. Her marketability, her chemistry with Clark, her growing popularity, all of that drives ticket sales, social engagement, and national interest. To many fans, the question now isn't whether Sophie Cunningham deserves the raise. It's whether Indiana is smart enough to recognize what she represents. Because this isn't just a battle over salary, it's a defining moment for how the Fever value heart, loyalty, and culture. If they let her go, they risk sending a chilling message to every other player who's ever poured themselves into the franchise. That passion is expendable. As of now, Sophie hasn't clarified her next move. She's kept her tone professional, her confidence intact, and her focus forward. "I've worked too hard to settle," she said, a line that perfectly sums up where she stands. Whether that's a hint at departure or simply a call for fair treatment, only time will tell. But one thing is certain, wherever she plays next, she'll bring the same relentless fire that's made her impossible to ignore. So now all eyes are on the Indiana Fever. Will they recognize the player who helped rebuild their spirit and pay her what she's worth? Or will they gamble on cheaper talent and watch their culture unravel piece by piece? For Fever fans, the uncertainty feels like a test of faith. And for Sophie Cunningham, it's the moment she claims the respect she's earned on every dive, every shot, and every ounce of passion she's given this team. What do you think, Fever Nation? Should Indiana open their checkbook to keep Sophie Cunningham, or is it time for her to take her fire somewhere new? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love following the drama, loyalty, and fire that make the WNBA great, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for more stories that go beyond the scoreboard.